Welcome to the Yeshivah Shalmala. This is Dovid Lichtenstein, and this week we're going to be speaking about bugs, insects, in lettuce, and vegetables. How careful do you have to be? Is it only bodek or kosher gardens, or can you buy triple washed lettuce from Dole or whoever the provider is? Can you eat strawberries? We're going to have on Rabbi Goldstein is going to say you cannot eat strawberries. He's one of the biggest Mashgiach in the world. They have to be peeled. Can you eat raspberries? The OU on its website says they don't allow it in their restaurants. They're really not checkable. We're going to discuss what changed from the Alt Daheim, where they used to eat berries. If you don't believe me, open up the Shulchan Aruch. Siman Reish Gimel talks about all the berries they ate till today. This is a big topic. There's lots of opinions. We're going to do it over a 2-week period. The Rabbanim will have Reuven Feinstein. He's going to talk about what his father, the Rosh, Moshe, what he ate at home, how he was noig. We'll have Rabbi Yitzchak Elchanan, Rabbi Hershel Shechter. We'll have from Eretz Yisrael, Rabbi Yitzchak Berkowitz, considered one of the brilliant younger poskim in the world today. We will have from the Mashgiachim, an etymologist, Rabbi Dovid Goldstein of Kosher Gardens and Positive. He's trained over 350 Mashgiachim in the halachas of bugs. And one of the things we're going to discuss is, do you have to buy, he works for Positive and Kosher Gardens, but, their vegetables are exactly double the price of the garden variety vegetables that you can buy in the store. The triple washed lettuce from Dole is half the price. Is there really a reason to buy it? Can you be Saimach on Dole? From the OU, we're going to have Rabbi Eli Gersten. You can't do any topic on Kashrus without having the OU. There's no hechsher in the world that doesn't rely on them. We're going to have from Eretz Yisrael, Rav Duvdevani. He is Rav Asher Weiss's sort of, his hechsher is totally under Rav Asher Weiss, all his shilas, etc. We'll hear what he believes about bugs. We're going to have Rebbetzin Neustadt, the Einikal of Rabbi Yaakov, since Rabbi Yaakov was often in the house. She saw what he ate, how they cooked for him, etc. Let's see, how our Gedolim were naig. She said, no, they didn't have a light box in his house. And, it should be a very interesting interview. I do this with trepidation, this program, because the last thing I want is when I come up to Nirah Leynaim, if they say, you brought on different opinions and now people are being nichshel and all the lavin. So I was really worried about it. I actually called Reb David Cohen when I have the shayla. A lot of times I'll call him. He said I could, as long as I stay over the psakim of different opinions. People have to decide. They have to speak to their rabbanim. But I would still like to add a disclaimer. This program is for informational. The shir is for informational purposes only. Ask your Nirah Harav. You may have some more ideas. So Mara Mekaymis, we'll put all our Mara Mekaymis, as we always do, up online. But really, this is just for informational purposes. This is going to be broken into 2 weeks. We'll have half this week, half next week. We're also trying to get one of the etymologists of green giant, bird's eye, etc., to hear what they have to say. How many insects they believe are in a package, or we have to triple wash. Maybe there are not surprising difference of opinions between the different rabbanim on the program. Really remarkable. This week we're going to have Rav Duvdevani and from Eretz Yisrael for Rabbi Asher Weiss, and we're going to have Rabbi Goldstein, and it's like they're talking about two Metzias in almost. Really very interesting. Before we go to our program, I want to say a vart. This week is Parshas Va'era, and I think there's a message here, a modern message. Do you ever get frustrated? Do you feel like, things just aren't going exactly the way I want or the way I want, and maybe I should break something? Well, what about with a kid? Maybe your child, he, she, they're just not maturing the way you would want them to. They don't seem to get it. Have you had that feeling? The kid just doesn't seem to get it. Like, why can't they grow up? So frustration. I want to share with you a thought. And the chidah basically comes from the chidah in Nachal Eshkel. But here's the thought. Rabbi gets upset at Moshe Rabbeinu. He speaks to him Kosher, and he says, Ve'era el Avram el Yitzchak el Yaakov. I appeared to Avram and Yitzchak and Yaakov The Kel Shakai with the shame Shin Daled Yud. Ushmi Havaya Loine Dati. Shmi Hashem Loine Dati Lam. And Ramban, Ramban has a long goes to town. And basically the Ramban says, the Avis, God, Rabbi Shalom revealed himself to them within the Teva, within creation. And Moshe, Shmi Havaya, you went beyond creation, miracles, just incredible, Nes B'toichnes. And Rabbi Shalom is upset about it, but it doesn't really explain what he's upset about. Like they were in the Teva, you're outside the Teva, different rabbis, different manhigim have different mahalchim. So the Chida explains it as such. I'm taking a little bit of liberty. But the shame Shindalajud Shakai means enough. I gave just enough revelation. Like the Rebbe Rabbunim says, he says, the world is a real balance. What's the balance? On one hand, sometimes we're zeichet to see Yad Hashem. But most of the times it's hidden, it's behelim. When Hashem plays sort of hide and go seek with man in a way, right? And where are we? We're at the cutting edge of that thing, where on one hand we see revelation, on the other hand we have questions, and that's our struggle. It's the struggle of our lives. It's a struggle that we were brought here to go through. He says, for example, Misha Amar he says, you said die to the world, you put it in the exact place where the Bechira was perfect. He says, tzaras are there to build our character. But too much tzaras can break you. So a person says, you are the Rabbeinu Shalom who said die. Misha Amar Lamai die, because you give me any more and you're pushing me over the edge where I become so downtrodden, I lose my Bechira. It's not fair anymore. So, is helicopter parenting good? When you see your child, you see some children, the kid has a little bit of an issue at school. One parent looks at the child and he says, Babala, the kid pushed you. Here, you could push him back. Or somebody said something, you tell him, he said you're this, you say, still. Another parent goes running to the principal. He's making meetings, he's calling. Now, there are times that that's needed too. But a helicopter parent means when it's not needed, you're there, you're always there. But what's the downside? The kid who's always been cosseted, protected, when something, they never learn how to fend for themselves. Whereas the kid who the parents said, come on, Bubba, you could do it. What happens? They do learn how to fend. So helicopter parenting really has a price. It's a real feel good. The kid is all upset. You pick up the phone, you scream. The kid's smiling. Wow, everything's taking it. But they didn't do it. You did it. What does it mean? The avis. If tachti v'loy kiyamti. What does Rashi say? I promised the avis. I said, I'm going to give you all this land. He tells Avram. And Avram has to go bury Sarah. He has to buy her burial place. The whole country is going to be mine, and yet the one little piece of land that I need, you have to buy. By Yaakov, Faratzta, Yamav, Akedma, you're going to spread throughout the universe, through the world. And what happens? He's chased from one place to the other, from Shem out of Shem. But they didn't strike back to others. They didn't say Lama Hari Isa. And why is that? Because the others understood. It's a struggle. It takes time. Life is a journey. It's not always the speed we would want it. It's not always often the way we would necessarily want it. It's a journey. And the others understood. Teva, nature, takes its time. And the others they lived in nature. When the sun bursts out in the morning, Avram Avinu was created Shachris. In the afternoon, the energy is fading. Yitzchak was Mincha. The quietude, the silence of night. Yaakov, Ma'ariv. They lived within the Teva. Moshe sees the suffering and he says, I can't deal with this. Come on, do something. Get them out early. Wave the magic wand. Go to the principal. That's how he writes in Nachal HaKadmonim. He brings it fabulous. He says, the Pasuk says, his Biani Bamroirim, Herani Lana. He says, Leil Pesach always comes out the night of Tisha B'Av. And he says, do you know why he brings from a Chazal? Because if they hadn't rushed the Geula, there never would have been a Tisha B'Av. When they left, they would have been strong enough to understand that things take time, have patience, get in sync with the Bria. No matter how much you want to get married, you can't push the shidduch. It takes a while to date, to have feelings for the other person. And as much as we want to have children, there's still a concept of Tisha Yarchei Leda. It takes 9 months. Albert Einstein had to wait 9 months for a baby. Maria Curie. No matter how genius you are, it just takes nature takes its time. And the others within nature, they waited their whole lives. And nothing ever happened. But they never lost their faith. It's in the proper time it'll come. And Moshe said, no, Lama Hariyasa. Right? So the lashon he says, Geulas Mitzrayim was Lefnei Zmanai, and that's what created Tisha B'Av. There's a story, it may be apocryphal or not, but there was a little boy, he was playing outdoors, and he found a caterpillar. He was a little boy, he picked it up, he took it home, he showed his mother, and she said he could keep it. So he put it in a jar, and he put some plants to eat. He put a stick for the caterpillar to climb on. Every day he watched the caterpillar and brought it grass, plants to eat. One day the caterpillar climbed onto the stick and it started acting differently. He called his mother, what's going on? She said, the caterpillar is creating a cocoon. It's going to spin the silk cocoon, it's going to climb into it, and one day it's going to come out as a butterfly, metamorphosis. So he watched. One day there's a little tiny hole appears in the cocoon, and the butterfly is struggling to get out. The little boy, he sees it struggling and struggling and struggling. He runs to the kitchen, he gets a scissor, and wants to cut open the cocoon. And his mother sees, she says, what are you doing? He says, I'm cutting open the cocoon. So mother says, that would be the worst thing you could do. He says, why? He says, look, brings him back in. See the little butterfly? Its wings are only stubby little wings. Its body isn't developed. It's swollen. It's small, shriveled wings. You cut it out now, it'll never develop. It's going to be a little cripple. The metamorphosis will never happen. But you know what? It's going to spend the next few days struggling and flapping its wings to break out of the cocoon. And you'll have a metamorphosis. You'll have a beautiful butterfly. So the Chida says this was the disagreement. The Avos and Moshe Rabbeinu. The Avos said they're struggling, the Jews, right? They're struggling in the Kura Barzal. And Rabbi Hashem said it's going to take 400 years for them to develop as a nation. And Moshe says, no, I can't deal with this. Make it. Let's do miracles. Let's do moipsim, nes b'tochnes. And you know what the Chidaf brings from Chazal? If we just would have let them struggle, they would have been strong enough, and there never would have been a Tisha B'Av. So you're struggling, or maybe a child is struggling. Yeah, if it's overwhelming, we certainly step in. But if sometimes things take time, there's a process, there's a maturation, there's teva, there's a journey. You know, life is a journey. Everybody has a journey. Have patience. You'll be able to make that hole in the cocoon. That's what the others believed. And that's what the Rabbi Shalom believed too.
And now for the riddle of the week. So, Vayitzak Moshe el Hashem al Dvar HaTzfardim. Moshe cried out to the Rabbeinu Shalom. Now this riddle is for everybody, but in particular for Staten and Hasidim. So, it says Moshe Tzahak, he cried out to Hashem. The Gemara in Brachas, if you're learning Daf, it should be in the next week or so. Next week. It says, Hamashmiya koiloi betfila. Somebody who cries out by davening, Hareze miktane amana. His faith is a little bit diminished. Why? Because he should believe that the Rabbeinu Shalom could hear whether you're crying or whether you're not crying, whether you're screaming or whether you're not screaming. Do you think it's like by the Nevi'ei Abal, the Gemara says, they screamed, they didn't think he was listening. You think he's not listening? And that's how we paskin. Well, it's a shiloh. So the Elio Rabbah says tzak is only by Shmanesrei, But we paskin like the Pri Megadim in the Mishnah Berurah, paskins like the Mishnah and like the Pri Megadim, that even by Psuki de Zimra, no screaming, not like Stalin, right? So the question is, it's a Beferish Pasik, neged the halacha. The Gemara in Brachas says you're going to learn in Daf Yomi next week that Mashgiach koileh b'tfilas miktani amuna, and the pasuk this week's parsha says Vayitzak Moshe el Hashem al dvar tzfardim. That is riddle number one. Second riddle, this is for Parshas Bay. Did you ever buy matzahs, shmura matzahs, the hand matzahs? And what does it say in there? It says mishas ktsira, shmira mishas ktsira. What does it mean? That from when they cut the wheat, already then, they make sure no water gets on it. And it's a chumrah. It's a riff in Psachim at the end of Perek Beis. The Tur brings it. We don't, Lekaradin, the Shulchan Aruch does not bring it. But, so here's the question. According to these shitas that the Tur brings, it's ma'akiv. So the Tur sheet is that it's ma'akiv. If you didn't watch it from when you cut it, it's ma'akiv. In other words, they cut it, they grind it, then they, l'chayra, by Pesach Mitzrayim, which is the first time we have matzah, so the Mekoyer of Mitzvah's matzah was in Chodesh Nisan, and Ktsir Chitin, the harvest was in Shavuos. So at the time when this was occurring in Egypt, there was no wheat in Mitzrayim, there was no wheat being cut. So how could the Torah bring that it's Likuva, according to the Rif? That you need Shmir Mishas Ktsira, when in Pesach Mitzrayim it was impossible, and that you can't say that they weren't Makayim Mitzvah's Matzah by the first Pesach. So those are our two riddles of the week. Of course, we'll announce the winners of last week's at the end of the program. Before we go to our guests, this debate about bugs, I want to clarify one thing. That everybody holds that if you can't see them, there's nothing visible to the naked eye with a magnifier. You don't have to use a microscope. Because there's mites in the ear, the invisible tiny little things, when dust mites, when you sleep, they come in. So that's not the issue. The bug that you could see an ant running across a piece of lettuce is not the issue. What is the debate in all the paiskim is when you have these little specks that to an amateur, I certainly can't tell. I did with strawberries, but Rabbi Goldstein said, I see these little black, now he's going to look at it, he's going to say, oh, hold it up to a magnifying glass on a light box, you'll see there's a tiny, like, what is the halachic status of those things? That is the debate here. So neither if you see it is not an issue, if you totally can't see it, it's these specks that all the issues, but miyit shemotzi, miyit she'ene motzi, is it bottle, is it nicker, that is going to be the discussion. I just want to clarify before we go to our guest.
Let's go to our guest. Joining us is the Rosh Yeshivah of the Ferris Yerushalayim and Staten Island, Harav HaGoyin, Rabbi Reuven Feinstein.
So let me ask Rosh Yeshiva, the Baal Igros Moshe, what was the anhag in the house? Did he eat strawberries? Did he eat raspberries? Did he eat vegetables? What was his anhaga? What did the Rebbitzin do, and what did the Rav eat?
Vegetables were definitely ate. I'll tell you that, you're going a little bit behind, way back. In those years, there was never these problems didn't exist. DDT was around. I'll tell you what year approximately they stopped was about 88, before the Yeshivah was Neustadt, about 2-3 years before the Yeshivah was Neustadt, they, maybe 5 years, they outlawed DDT. And that's when the problems became. And we only became aware of it. It happens to be started with our Yeshivah guy. The whole idea of this is because one of the guys read the local newspaper, and it said, get your protein with your vegetables. And he read the article, and it says that, you have worms and beans. Said it can't be. It doesn't make sense. And that day we were supposed to have spinach potatoes. So I said we got to find out before lunchtime how true this is. So we called up USDA. And the USDA confirmed that that's a Matthias. Yes, there are bugs now and there are worms in the cans. And you have to be careful. Okay, so once he did that, so Baruch Hashem, they didn't serve spinach that day. He made something else, and they had lunch. Otherwise, they wouldn't have had lunch that day. And that's it. And from then on, Yeshivah told us that we should not be mefalsim to the world. We should only be mefalsim to the rabbinical agencies, because our sheet is the Ramatir, and it's only the Pashas the Rabbanon, and therefore it hasn't got the din of Delia in that sense. So people should not lose the trust in the Rabbanon. Rabbanon are not aware of it, so those in happens to be in that's the rest is not the game. Okay. And we did research on many different products. We had the different frozen companies, which ones were better, which ones were not, and we found out the only one Rav was aware of it, and of course that he used to wash the vegetables with chlorine. That was it had very little worms, very little what do you call it? Whatever you want to call it, compared to the others. We had one or two in the package. And the question was, which I never asked was Yeshivah, because he got sick that time, was if you have something that's multi-petroleum and you did something that definitely made it less, if that's considered take off the Chazaka. And now till I find one, I can eat it. And I never got an answer on that, so I can't answer that.
And did the Rosh Yeshiva ever talk about what they ate in Europe? I mean, what he ate back in the Haim, did they eat strawberries?
I noticed they had strawberries. They ate yagadis, blueberries they ate. And mainly was all root vegetables. You had no lettuce. There's no lettuce in Europe, in Russia. They only had root vegetables.
Because in Siman Reish Gimel, in Dinei Brachas Uperis, the Aruch HaShulchan and the Mishnah Berurah, they bring moilberries, molinis. I mean, they bring shtenelnus, like a whole list of blackberries, wineberries, Chester blackberries, red currants, all the brachas. So it seems if the Mishnah Berurah and the Aruch HaShulchan lived in Russia, they must have had a lot of berries. It sounds like anyway, no?
Okay, I said blueberries were there for sure. I don't know the other berries. I can't tell you.
They had it said raspberries. They had Weinferlach. He brings Yagadis is blackberries, wineberries.
Yagadis is blueberries.
Okay, and then they had Vagrisin, which is red currant. Smardinas is gooseberries. Molinas is raspberries. Mavarchana 8. I'm reading directly from the Anu Noyagim. The Lashon of the Aruch HaShulchan is Anu Noyagim Levarach Aleim Baruch Preit. So it seems they must.
That doesn't mean it grew around him. He was a little bit in bigger town. Maybe they got some imports, but I doubt if it grew up there. Maybe I can't answer. Like blueberries were able to grow, and also was able to grow. I don't know what the climate it needs. It was just very cold. If you want to compare, we have a feeling we're in a map, let's say England, compared to the United States. It's up in Canada, way halfway up. Scotland is near the North Pole. So you have an idea that Poland and these things are all upper Canada. They're not the United States. So colder air to get there. I can't answer what they had, but I definitely didn't hear any talk about those types of berries.
And what about in Poland, which is closer to our climate? Did they eat all these things then?
I really don't answer. I can't answer. I don't know. But,
and what did they use? Let's say for chasa, for moror on Pesach. Did they use?
Spain. There was no lettuce and the only first time we got lettuce was about 1950s on the east side, and then it came full dirt, and supposedly imported from El soil. The first idea in China was, can you use it tomorrow using their Chazaka, not their Chazaka, whole business. Always used more until they got sick.
So what about cabbage? They had cabbage. They used in Russia was a staple. So did they eat cabbage in the Haim?
Yes. You check the first 3 leaves. If they're clean, you can use the cabbage. You can use the head.
And did they use a light box? Did your father have a light box in his house?
No, we had no light box.
So did they check the cabbage? Let's say what did they use? They used the
first 3 leaves.
And they would hold it up to the light.
Well, with your eyes, without holding it up to the light.
Did he use a magnifying glass?
No.
So something said he did not use a magnifying glass or a light box.
No.
What about onions? Did they eat the whole onion or not?
Everybody ate the whole onion. The only thing you peeled it, that's what you did. And when you peel it, there's no more bugs. Bugs are only in the brown type of thing in the first layer. That's all they are.
What about things like cauliflower or broccoli? Did they eat them?
I really don't know, but again, I told you then, if they did eat it, then they ate it because DDT was around.
My mother told me growing up in Eretz Yisrael, the basic food was cauliflower. Everybody ate it.
So good. That's Eretz Yisrael. You got to ask them why. But in America, I told you, everything was DDT. Once you had DDT, there were no worms at all, no bugs at all. They killed everything before they got into the Nirah Leynaim. And until before that, they're kosher. You can eat them. If you can't see them, you can eat them.
Right.
So therefore, if you kill them at that time, and they ate, so you ate them. So it doesn't make a difference. I'm saying they never grew up in America.
Right.
The DDT, when they got rid of DDT, that's when the problem started.
So now, the Rosh Yeshiva has a tshuva in Yeridei Chelik Dalet Siman Beis, where he talks about thrips. Those the tiny little bugs that are very difficult to see. And I'll read the exact lashon. He says, "Yadua shaloi amarti b'zeh shum hachra ulehepech daiti noite yoysa lahakol." Right. And he brings the Rav in the Rosh Yeshiva in the tshuva by Sha'ata b'ni Harav goyin merenu shalom Reuven shlita kasaftem li, right? Shenira shedavar shaloi nira lemaisa lehedja leinayim einay asa. Could you elaborate on that a little, because you're mentioned in this tshuva?
I don't remember the Maisa, so I can't tell you. But I can tell you that anything that's not Nirah Leynaim is kosher. And the question is, and we did see thrips, through microscopes. And when we took it away, we did not see them, and therefore it's called to not be Nirah Leynaim. That's all I can say. Now you'll tell me there's a bigger thrip than the one I did, and we call it some other name. There's some other name. I can't answer that. But the ones we were talking about were not Nirah Leynaim.
And what happens if you see a tiny black speck and you just don't know what it is? Is that called Nirah Leynaim or not?
No. It has to be identifiable. Now, the only thing that you can ask me, if you want, and I really can't give you a complete answer on it, is if I see a black spot and somebody came along and put it under a magnifying glass, or microscope, and he now sees what the lines are and things like that, and that's the legs and feet or whatever it is there. And now when I look closely at the black spot, I still can't see that they're feet and legs and anything else, but I do see these lines. Is that considered Nirah Leynaim or not? But I can't answer. I would be nice that probably that is not, but I can't answer that for sure.
Mm-hmm. I mean, because Rosh Yeshiva obviously appreciates that the ear is full of bugs too. There's something called dust mite. I suffer from allergies. They say, every night they tell me I have allergies because millions of dust mites crawl in and out of our our respiratory system. So the question is, are these water?
You drink water, you drink paramecians. Those are living organisms. You know, and it's not us, it's not Nirah Leynaim. If you want a pshat now, I'll give you a pshat on, with the, what do you call it, the bugs that are coming from the air, like Zay's Masha from the Loshin and the Gemara and the Rishonim, and what do you call it, and Chazal, that it's like born, like it's...
spontaneous combustion.
Spontaneous generation. Spontaneous generation.
Yeah.
Right? Now, the science is disproven spontaneous generation, right?
Right.
So what do we do with Chazal, right? So now I'll explain it to you. There are two types of Yisurim. One also is also because Hayetzim and Tome. So therefore, when we see the egg or the live birth of a bug or anything it is, that's also because we see it as it comes out. Now, there's things that are not also when they come out. Why? Because they're beyond the sight of a human being. So they're mutter when they come out. When do they become also? When they become Nirah Leynaim. At that point, it's not coming from the tummy anymore, and therefore you need a posik reichish haloretz. That's the pshat.
And that's the same. So Rosh Yeshiva is saying it doesn't mean that it's spontaneous generation. Rosh Yeshiva is saying is that we first become aware of it after it was born, because its inception is something that is not Nirah Leynaim, and something that is not Nirah Leynaim, Chazal do not give any credibility to, they do not give credence to, they do not give any value to it. So and with that, Rosh Yeshiva wants to explain also the halach in Hilchos Shabbos that you're allowed to kill, let's say, bugs that have sort of spontaneous generation. It doesn't mean spontaneous generation. It means bugs that come into exist. Our awareness of them is post their inception. Yeah, right. Not like the Pachad Yitzchak.
Have a different.
Right. So basically, then in halacha, the Rosh Yeshiva is saying that not like the Pachad Yitzchak in I'm not Rabbi Yitzchak Lamparanti, not who's matir, who says it's asa to kill bugs, who argues on the Shulchan Aruch, but he's saying no, the Shulchan Aruch's halacha in Hilchos Shabbos is kayam. It's just talking about a different classification. The Shulchan Aruch classifies it differently.
That's right.
Okay. So when Rosh Yeshiva at home, let's say, does Rosh Yeshiva eat strawberries?
We wash them according to the star cake.
So do you wash them in, let's say, dishwasher detergent, or?
That you can't ask me. My wife is not here anymore. Otherwise, you would have had to ask her. But she got the direct from the star cake, and she does whatever they tell her.
So, but would you? So, in other words, you're not sure whether you need detergent or not to wash them.
I think their thing was with a detergent and a special kind of detergent. I don't remember the name of the thing. Something. It definitely was not available in every store. I can't answer you past that, but that was okay.
So my question would be, what did they do for thousands of years in all over the world before they had dishwasher detergent or all these other...
They looked at the strawberry, they saw no worms, they ate it.
Right.
There's no feed for me to go make crazy things. The only thing I have to take is look at it. So look at it. Didn't tell you to take in a light box either. Look at it. It's easier with a light box. Okay, so take a light box. I don't want to do it because I'll say, ugh, it's a bug. How can I eat it? I've eaten it. Okay, so use a light box. Don't tell me what to do, but that's you don't need a light box. All you need is to look at it.
So washing it in detergent, which is a relatively new development, it's 20 years old or 30 years old, would you say that then if you looked at it and you don't see it, you don't have to wash it? Is it just a chumrah? Like how would you define that?
You don't have to wash it. No, what it does for you by doing that, by washing in detergent, I don't have to look at it. That's what they're telling you.
Otherwise, you'd have to look at it.
Okay, gotta go.
Okay, Agresia Shikaya. Thank you so much. Joining us from Ramat Gan in Eretz Yisrael is Rav Oren Duvdevani. He's the Rav HaMachshir. For many years, he was the Rav HaMachshir of the Ashkenazi community in Mexico City, of the cruise line company. He's a musmach of the Rabbanis HaRoshes. He's the Rav HaMachshir for Tzohar of many restaurants. Welcome, Rav Duvdevani.
Well, hello. Nice to be here with you.
So, Rav Duvdevani, when it comes to checking for bugs, what do you, as a Rav HaMachshir Mexico, what procedures do you have?
I think that before we are talking about the procedure, we must define very well the issue, what we are talking about. Usually, when we are talking about the issue, the writer, we are talking about the sheretz, and for now it doesn't make any difference if we talk about sheretz hamayim, sheretz haaretz, or sheretz haof. We are talking about the sheretz as it is. When people said 4 malkot, 5 malkot, 6 malkot, we are talking about the sheretz as it is. But usually, when we are talking about checking leaves or vegetables or fruit from bugs, it's different. And now we are entering to the issue of birya. That birya is something that is an issue that is smaller than kazai, but even though, because it's something chashuv, it's something that has its own importance, it can't be battled. And here we have two machlokot. Many understand that birya, what Chachamim said that birya doesn't battle, is a no batel be'elef. It's no batel be'shishim, sorry, but be'elef batel. And so, for example, if you see a fly that enter a huge bowl of soup, and now you can't find him in the soup, but you have P11 soup from the fly, it's battle. When we are...
But Rabbi Duvdevani, but just for that's not accepted by the Shulchan Aruch, this opinion. It's a singular opinion, and it's not accepted by the Shulchan Aruch. Is that fair to say?
No. Well, you have here machloket between the Rishonim, the opinion that doesn't accepted by the Shulchan Aruch, that it's not battle b'shishim, but it's battle b'rov. You consider you have a Pitkei Tshuva, if I remember correctly.
The Shulchan Aruch does not bring the concept of battle be'elef to Yerushalmi and the Rashba, but most poskim disagree with that, and I'm just pointing out again, the Shulchan Aruch does not bring this.
Yes,
right? The Shulchan Aruch's lashon is afilu be'elav loy batal, but there are those who argue on the Shulchan Aruch.
True, you're right. Maybe I didn't understand you correctly, but it's an argument when you are coming to psak. It's an argument
right.
in
it's a sniff. It's one opinion. Agreed.
Okay. So when we are talking about the obligation of checking leaves or fruit, we have three different halachic situations. We have the first situation, which is the most difficult, is what we call ma'achal nagua. Ma'achal nagua, it's like lettuce or persil, things like that. That most of the chance they will have bugs in it, and you can't eat them without checking it first. The second situation is mi'uta matsui, which is most of the vegetables and the fruit, and those are need bdika lechatchila, but if you didn't check it, you can count on rov and eat them without bdika b'diavad. And the third situation is ma'achalim, food that usually consider as clean, for example, white onion, right? And if there are no clearly signs of bugs, you can eat them with no bdika. I think that all of the poskim agrees that if you have bugs that you can't see them in your own eyes, a natural way, those are not the bugs that the Torah was forbid. Rav Asher Weiss, that I'm really he really advised me a lot. He told me the Torah has no microscope. Yes, if you understand what I mean. So, but the
Rabbi Duvdevani, let me ask you a question. We agree with your classifications, but let me ask you the following. You have a speck on a strawberry, and to you it just looks like a speck. It looks like nothing. It just looks like a tiny piece of dirt. However, if you give it to your friend who has really gone through the sugya well and in depth, and has used magnifying glasses or microscopes, will take one look at it and say, oh, that's a thrip. I recognize it. To you, it looks like a piece of dirt. To him, he knows it's a thrip. He can recognize it. So we agree. We agree that if you can't see it by the eye, the Aruch HaShulchan, everybody agrees that that's nothing. We agree if you can clearly see it, it's something. We're talking about the gray area in between. So in this case, where an ordinary housewife looks at it, looks like nothing, she'll give it to a guy who learned the sugya of bugs, takes one look at it, say, that's a thrip. And you don't believe me? Pull out a magnifying glass and you'll see it's a thrip. And I can recognize it because I've seen them. What's the halacha in such a case?
In such a case, it's clearly also Rav Shlomo Zalman said it, and also this is what wrote Rav Asher Weiss in his Tshuva, that we are going according to the average housewife. Even though there are achronim that says that even if it's a bug, but I see it as a piece of dirt or piece of dust, it can't be forbidden. Even we can't define it as a birya, because if the definition of birya is chashivut, surely this bug has no chashivut.
But wait, that's a different. Now you're getting into some opinions that say that the reason for birya is chashivut. That's a machlekes what the reason for birya is. Some say the reason for birya is the chashivus of birya is because it has so many surim. It's two opinions in the poskim. So you're taking a little bit of a leap now.
I'm taking it a leap. I said this is what the poskim says, the achronim said. I think it's very clear that in the poskim and the achronim. Just let me finish.
Okay,
finish.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Most of the poskim says that halacha is according to the visibility of usual people, and this was the minhag in Am Yisrael for generations. And the dinim of the bdika in Shulchan Aruch general are more very general. The Shulchan Aruch didn't give details for any piece of vegetable or fruit in the nature. And if you can, this is the opinion of the Igrot Moshe, the Minchat Shlomo, Avnei Nezer also said it, Chazon Ish, Chayei Adam, Yeshuot Yaakov. In our generation, you can find one of the biggest expert for Kashrus, Harav Weizmann, Zev Weizmann, the rabbi of Tnuva, Rav Mashgiach of Tnuva, that holds like this. Just a few weeks ago, one of the biggest Talmidei Chachamim here in Eretz Yisrael, Rav Eliezer Melamed, published his volume of Minei Halacha about Kashrut, and this is the Shita. He also holds that we are posting and we are measuring according to the average visibility of the average person. It's the same about etrog. No one demands a balabait when he buys etrog to take glasses or microscope and check his etrog. We are going according to the natural options of the regular person, the average person. I think it's clear, and I know that there are other opinions that are machmirim, but they should know two things. First, this is not the acceptable minhag in Am Yisrael for generation, and they should know that if they choose to be machmir, to be very, very machmir, they should know that they are machmir, that it's not ikar adin, it's not ikar halacha.
So let's go back to strawberries. What would you do with strawberries? A woman calls you up, she says, Rabbi, I bought a box of strawberries. What should I do? What would you tell her?
Okay. Please cut the green leaves about with the white part of the fruit, because this is the place that most of the bugs are in the fruit. Then take the strawberries, put them for 2 or 3 minutes in a cold ice water with some cleaning material. It can be any material, soap for vegetable or regular soap or something like that, and then wash it. And I'm assure you, I test it in a laboratory. I can assure you that maybe in the United States, in America, the result will be different. But here, and I checked also in Europe, the strawberry will be definitely clean.
Okay.
In other situations, for example, like cauliflower or broccoli, even though there are very good methods to clean it at home, but in other places like restaurants or hotels or public kitchen, I do insist that they will use only the frozen product and not the fresh product. Because when you are talking about very, very big quantities, it's true that it's very hard to clean it properly.
Okay. Now, let me ask. So, and you say you follow the psakim of when you have a shayla, you go to Rav Asher Weiss.
Usually to Rav Asher Weiss, right?
Yeah. So, what about you go to the store in America? I don't know if they have this in Eretz Yisrael. And they sell something called triple washed lettuce. Comes in a bag.
Okay.
Do you have that in Eretz Yisrael?
We have that. I was Rav Weizmann and myself. We checked it. We checked a facility like that here in Eretz Yisrael a few months ago, and the result was quite good, quite impressive. Even though it's not what we call here in Eretz Yisrael. Chasa Gush Katif, that the clean, the no bugs lettuce. But the result was very clean. Also in Mexico, I supervised, I certified a facility like that. I think that in every product, and even in the same facility, in every product, it can be different results, because the bugs sometimes they like one vegetable and they don't like the other vegetable, and the conditions between one place that they grow the vegetable and the other place are different. And we should know that many times the issue of bugs is influenced by the conditions in the storeroom and in the fridges.
In the where?
In the storeroom, not in the field, and not in the facility. In the storeroom, in the fridge of the hotel, in the fridge of the supermarket. If the place, in general, the restaurant kitchen, or for example, the kitchen of the hotel is not clean enough, if they don't have a sufficient separation between in and out, and they will have bugs. They will have bugs in the flour. They will have bugs in the rice, in the corn, everywhere, and also in the vegetables.
Okay, but you find that the triple washed products you have found to be clean. And when you say clean, did you find that it was clean, or it just became a miyuche in matzah? Like how clean?
Okay. When we are talking about clean, even in Chasa Gush Katif, there is no 100% clean. And if someone told you like that, I'm sorry, it's very inaccurate. Not today. So we are talking about there are two main standards in the world: the Japanese standards and the European standards. The Japanese standards for cleaning vegetable, what considered clean, is very, very strict. If I remember correctly, the number, it's 3 or 4 bugs for more than 15 kilo, and the European standards is a little bit lower. I don't know what are the standards of the USDA. This is considered clean. For example, if in this triple wash vegetable you'll find in 15 kilo, you'll find 3 flies or 3 trips, that will be considered clean. And I think you understand it's miyut b'miyut.
What does that mean, miyut b'miyut? Why is it miyut? If it's 3 bugs at 15 kilos, explain what do you mean it's miyut b'miyut?
I think that it's less than miyut matzui.
Oh, that's what you mean. Yeah, I agree with you. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's halachically this quantity considered clean, and we can authorize it. So we need to check out what are the process of cleaning and washing in the triple wash vegetable. I assume, from what I know in United States, they are good, and they wash it very, very well. But if the process is good, there is no reason not to consider it as clean. But again, the store conditions are very, very important, because it can leave the facility so clean. But if I want store it properly, it will fill with bugs in days.
Right.
Especially during the summer.
And the bugs don't come from the field, you're saying. The bugs seem to come from the air or something, right?
Many times, yes. If a place, if a kitchen of a hotel or a restaurant, it's not clean enough. They have flies. It's dirty, and it's not fridge enough. The temperature of storing is not
cold enough.
It's not cold enough. You'll have bugs. For example, one of our standards in our kashrut, that flour after nipui must be stored in a fridge, because otherwise, in the summer of Eretz Israel, it will be filled with bugs in 24 hours. You can use the most strict, the most machmir napa, but in 24 hours, in 45 Celsius of the Israeli summer, it will fill with bugs.
Interesting.
So many people are, and also rabbis, they are. It's a mistake to check only the facility or only the field. You must consider the condition of storing. If the condition of storing are good, and the washing was good, and we developed a very, very strict method of washing, and then you are makpid on the proper condition of storing, you can use regular lettuce or regular leaves from the supermarket, and achieve very, very good results of clean vegetable according to very high standards.
Now, I didn't understand what you just said. How could you achieve it at very high standards if the supermarket hasn't cleaned it?
If you clean it at home, for example, we developed a shita that our Mashgiachim knows how to clean the parcel or the lettuce in a proper way, and then they keep it in a proper condition till they use it in the kitchen, and it stays clean.
Right. Okay. I understand what you're saying. Now, have you ever checked, let's say, the product of Bodek, the American, product? Have you ever checked it or no?
I know the product. I didn't check it. I heard from many people that dealing with in Kashrut. Maybe I say something now that I shouldn't say, but I believe it's true. That actually there are no a significant difference between, for example, a frozen cauliflower of Bodek and a frozen cauliflower of the regular companies. I assume that Bodek has very, very high standards, but I don't know if the difference in prices justify it, because as I said, according to halacha, according to the Ikar Adin, and as far as I see, I saw many regular facility of frozen vegetables. The standards of cleaning is very, very good. The results are very, very good, and I don't know.
When you say the standard of cleaning, whose standards of cleaning?
Of the frozen vegetables in other facilities that are not Bodek.
You mean just plain Green Giant, whatever, the regular commercial facilities?
Regular frozen broccoli, regular frozen cranberry, regular frozen cauliflower. I checked many facilities. The results are good, are very good. I assume that Bodek want to get not 98%, they want to get 110%. Okay, every Rabbi should make his own cheshbon and ask his own Rav if the difference of the price justify this hidu or this chumrah.
Now, when you say you checked, you say the frozen quality is good. Could you explain what have you done?
I took it to a laboratory, and we check, for example, in 10 kilo.
In what? I'm sorry?
We checked in 10 kilos.
Oh, in 10
how
kilos.
Many bags there are in 10 kilos.
Of a regular Green Giant frozen vegetable.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. And the numbers were very low. We did it during a year. Yes, during a year. Every few months, you take 10 kilo or 15 kilo to the laboratory, and you ask them to check it for you and find the bugs. and if in 10 or 15 kilo or 20 kilo, you find no more, sometimes 2 bags, sometimes 4 bags, I think, according to every halachic standard, this is considered a very good result.
Interesting. Now, when you say you took it to the laboratory to identify them, how does the laboratory, like, what do they do? They put each thing under a microscope? Like, what did they do?
Yeah, they separate. If we're talking about, for example, we're talking about artichoke. We're talking about cauliflower. They start to separate everything. They not put the vegetable under any process, and they start they separate everything, and they put everything under a microscope and check it. It's taking a lot of time, especially if you're dealing with large quantities.
And where did you do this in America? You say?
No, not in America. I did it in Mexico. I did it in Russia. I did it here in Eretz Israel.
So my question is, how do they do that? Given that it's so hard to clean for bugs, why is it that you found that they're so clean?
I didn't say it's hard to clean. I said for a restaurant, to take a fresh cauliflower and clean it. It will be very hard to get good results. In the pressure of a restaurant kitchen or a kitchen in a hotel, the result will be very bad. But under the process that those vegetables are going in the facilities, the process of the facilities are very, very different from the process that you are doing in your own kitchen, or even in a kitchen of a hotel or a restaurant.
And why is it that these companies are taking such care to clean for bugs? Like, what's the logic?
I think that they're interested in a very high quality of a product.
But let's face it.
Every producer don't want that the housewife will open the cauliflower and will find flies in it.
So wait. So let me just clarify. When you say that you checked and they're good quality, are you talking about the very small bugs, or are you talking about large bugs?
And they're talking about even the very small bugs.
So, but why would a housewife even notice if there's tiny black dots? Like, why would the companies care about that?
You should have the companies, but it's
interesting.
The companies.
Okay.
They are very, very strict. Most of the companies in Western countries are very, very strict about it.
How interesting! I wasn't aware of that. We should try to get on the air here.
The process of cleaning is very extreme and very radical.
How interesting! This is fascinating. So when you would come to America, would you be comfortable then eating Green Giant spinach in the bag?
From a frozen product?
Yeah, from a frozen product. Yeah.
I assume I will.
You would be comfortable eating it?
Yeah, I assume I will. Yes.
Because of your experience, you say, and how careful they are.
Yeah.
So, and what is the difference between, let's say, Bodek and the others? Like how much do they improve the process?
I don't know exactly what are the standards and the demands of Bodek. As I told you, I assume that Bodek want to answer the demands the most strict Machmir demands, and it's fine. If the question is if you think, or we think, is it Ikar Adin or not? I don't think it's Ikar Adin. I assume that most of the poskim will admit it's not Ikar Adin. It's a Chumrah. It's good thing to be Mehader and Machmir and Kashrut, but these things, Chumrah and Kashrut, has its own price, financial price, and social prices, and community prices, and every person should make his own cheshbon if the prices are justified. That's all. If he comes to a maskana, to a conclusion that the prices are justified, and he wants to be the most strict machmir and to have the most high standards, fine. But be aware that it's not Ikar Adin, it's a Chumrah, and it's its own price. Here in Israel, in Eretz Israel, I more worried and more consider about problems of tevel and trumot u'masrot than problems of bugs.
Interesting.
Because
and that is
here, because most of the question of bugs are the Rabbanan. And here in Eretz Israel, the problem of trumot u'masrot and tevel is the Oraita. And if I have the Mashgiach for a limited time in a hotel or in a restaurant, and I will prefer that he will verify in 100% that all the payload and all Yerakot and all the vegetables and fruits are metukanim, has no problem of tevel, and we will verify again and again that we don't have a problem of hafrashat chala, and the issues of bugs is not number one. It's number two. Listen, as I said before, there are not so many simanim in Shulchan Aruch about bugs.
Yeah, it's two simanim.
What?
One siman. It's Peidalet and Kuf, yes. The only places, yeah.
Yes, but there are many simanim about hafrashat chala. There are many simanim about stam yeinam, and those are issues when you need to supervise, when you need to give ashgacha on a place, and you have a lot. The Mashgiach has a lot of kashrut missions, and he must all the time think what is ikar and what is tafel. If the place wants to use chasa gush katif, which is no like bodek, products like bodek, it's fine, it's wonderful, but the difference of price is sometimes is 20%, sometimes it's 50%, and not many places want to do it. So the Mashgiach must clean, and he must know how to clean it well, and he must do his job. But he can't put all his time in cleaning the leaves from bugs when in the same time he has problem of trumot u'masrot and tevel d'oraita.
Well, Rabbi Duvdevani, this was really fascinating, and what we're going to do is I'm going to try to speak to somebody at Green Giant or one of the other large producers to see what type of cleaning they actually do. But this was, and we may call you back with additional questions if that's okay with you.
Okay, fine.
Thank you very much for your time. We have on the phone with us Rabbi Dovid Goldstein, joining us from New York. He is the Mashgiach of Positive and Kosher Gardens, which are the largest producers of bug-free vegetables. He has trained over 370 Mashgiachim around the world. Right? He's a Talmud of Rabbi Yeshivah, who wrote Bedikas Hamazain Kahalacha. So I guess he's America's number one authority. Welcome, Reb Dovid.
Welcome. Shalom Aleichem.
tell us, you're a Talmud of Reb Moshe. Can you tell us briefly what Reb Moshe, he sort of started this revolution of bugs, of checking. Could you tell us a little bit about it?
So my Rebbe, Reb Moshe from Yerushalayim, originally from Brazil, when he came to Israel, after he was 15 years old, he recognized, as in Nirah Yeshivah he had learned at the time, certain people comes for Pesach, they do not know exactly how to deal with their Romaine lettuce. So he remembered, as being a Bach in Brazil, as the rabbi used to give instructions of the show how to make sure the Romaine lettuce are clean for Pesach, for the Seder. So he started to write for the Ingolite, for the people in the Koil, how they should do the Romaine lettuce for Pesach. And from there, his future started in Teloyim. And, there's a chis for Klal Yisrael, not eating dogs. A lot of credit comes to Moshe for this.
And he wrote Bedikas Hamazin Kalacha, which is one of that Teilas Shani. It's one of these. These are one or two, a few of the handbooks for checking on the halachas of checking on bugs.
Correct. So, he made three volumes in Hebrew and one volume in English for the American community.
So let me ask you a question, Reb David. 100 years ago in Europe, I mean, today people use light boxes. Is that how you teach your Mashgiachim to do?
Shulchan Aruch says you got to check. It doesn't tell you
how.
A light box. Now, in the olden days, they used to use the sun. Now, of course, it's more comfortable to use a light box than a sun. So that's why we recommend to use light boxes.
And what other technology do you use?
Okay, so we have a lot of ways how we deal today, make it much easier for Mashgiachim. I have to tell you, Rabbi Lichtenstein, I used to be a Mashgiach in a restaurant. I used to get paid. The minimum wage at the time was, now it's like $15 an hour in New York City and Brooklyn, whatever it is. It used to be $7 an hour, $10 an hour used to be. And the Mashgiach used to sit in the kitchen a whole day checking parsley, dill, cilantro, leaf by leaf. It's amazing how these Mashgiachim didn't just, I don't know how they were able to take it into themselves, because this is such a hard job to do. Standing for hours and hours and hours and hours checking leaf by leaf and getting paid almost garnish. It was very hard for Mashgiachim to do this. And when I got connected with Moshe, and he started to teach me the Shmata Bedika, we call it, the Shmata method, and we brought it into the Kashrus organizations, and we really changed, and we really made it for the Mashgiachim much, much easier to check for bugs. Not only that, whoever wants a good Mashgiach for checking for bugs gets a lot of more stuff approved faster, and of course he has to pay more for that Mashgiach. So we're able to pick up the whole issue with bugs as the pay, as the job, and as to get the balabas of the restaurant or whoever is much happier because he gets more for his dollar.
So I'm embarrassed to say, what is the Shmata method?
So the Shmata B'dik is like this. Let's start. A person walks in before Pesach, and let's say in a supermarket in the country, any supermarket. So the minig is we eat moroi for Pesach, romaine lettuce. Correct?
Right.
So every person says, okay, I could do this. They're going to buy, let's say, a Andy Boy brand. Now, Andy Boy brand is one of the worst brands. It has the most bugs in it. I don't know why, but Andy Boy is gefährlich comes to bugs. So let's say he picks up an Andy Boy bag, and he goes home, and he takes a light box, and he checks leaf by leaf. Most people would do that. They might not see the bug. They actually see it with the eye. It's actually in front of them, but they might not recognize the bug. As Rabbi Moshe always says, if I want to give you Rabbi Lichtenstein a mezuzah to check, can you check me the mezuzah? You will say no. I first have to learn the halachas, what to look for, how to look for. You don't just take a mezuzah and you say Shema Yisrael in the half ways. You have to know exactly what you're doing. Same as with bugs. People could check for bugs themselves. I have no issue people check themselves for bugs. Before you do that, get a little training a little idea what a thrip, what a mite, what an aphid, what a leaf miner, what these bugs all about, like this, when you do the checking, you know what you're looking for, so then you can be comfortable when you eat it, you're not eating bugs. So let me give you an example. Is a bug that's called an aphid. An aphid produces a baby every 20 minutes, not an egg, a baby, every 20 minutes. That baby has already a baby in herself. That means that when the mother has a child, in the child is already a grandchild. And these aphids, they have like 6 legs. They have a very strong grip onto the leaf. The mouth, how they eat, is like a straw, and it punches into the leaf, the straw. And then after it produces a lot of babies, they give out a honey. So combined, all this research we have on this bug, when you put it under the sink of water to wash it down, it doesn't wash off aphids. So let's say we have this special supermarket in 5 towns, where they have a Mashgiach going every night to Hunts Point in the Bronx, the market, and he makes called pre-checks. He checks over there the romaine lettuce. Why does he check it over there? Because if he sees any aphids in the romaine lettuce, we wouldn't touch that shipment. We wouldn't take it. Because to wash off these bugs are very hard, almost impossible. And if they will purchase a whole pallet of these romaine lettuce, it will go straight to the garbage, or they will sell it not checked, not kosher, and some other Yid would eat that bug. So that's why this is one of the techniques we do. We send down the Mashgiach actually to the market. He goes every night there from 10 o'clock to 4 o'clock in the morning. And then there's another bug. It's called the thrip. The thrip has a few stages. The baby stage, it's very hard to wash off. The adult stage, very easy to wash off. Spiders, easy to wash off. Flies, easy to wash off. Then there's a bug, it's called a leaf miner. Leaf miner means it's very popular in celery and spinach, basil, dill, cilantro, and the romaine has a season in the summer when you have these leaf miners. It's a fly that comes to the leaf. It punches in 150 eggs into the tissue of the leaf. How thin the leaf is, in that thin tissue, he puts in 150 eggs. It's amazing. It's naflus abayra. And from 150 eggs, 1 or 2 leaf miners start to crawl in the leaf, in the tissue. You cannot wash him off. He's inside the tissue. And he crawls over there, he makes a tunnel. It's called a leaf miner. He makes a mine in the leaf. Eventually, he has to make a hole, come out, and come back a fly. But most of the time, in our celeries, he's still into the leaf, still crawling and digging while we cook it and eat it, God forbid. So when you have a little bit knowledge, what we're looking for, then a little knowledge what you're looking for, then we could get people to check themselves. So I tell a lot of people, especially people very into health, they're very into health food. I have no problem. You should know, Rabbi, listening to you. I will tell you, I will announce it on your show famously as possible. Whoever wants to learn for bugs, I don't charge. I set up people, I give them appointments. I do not charge. Whoever wants to learn bugs, Mashgiachim, Rabbanim, or certain people, they have to have a certain item they have to eat for health reasons. I try to help everybody in this part of the world of the bugs.
Mm-hmm. So you say you had leaf miners, thrips, and what was the other one you called?
Aphids, leaf miners, thrips. We could go on to mites, to white flies.
So how depends. So can I ask you a question? When the Achronim talk about milbin, what are they talking about? Miners, thrips, aphids, or mites, or all of the above?
No. So milbins, we call it mites.
Mites.
No, mites. Now, strawberries. No, Lichtenstein.
It's Mr. Lichtenstein. I'm not a rabbi. I don't call myself rabbi. I call myself Lichtenstein. Yeah.
Okay. So.
Well, Dovid. Dovid is even better. How's that?
Okay. Good. Now, I want to tell you like this. When I give speeches and I give classes, sometimes certain people they say, "Oh, everything has bugs," and they feel very bad. And I feel even worse when I do a class like that. So I have to tell for Klal Yisrael, I have a whole list. I can email it to everybody, whoever wants to. I can send it to you. I can email it for your listeners. Pomegranate is good. Watermelon is good. Honeydew is good. Bananas are good. Plums, peaches. I have a whole list. Everything what you could eat. There's plenty food we can eat. Well, let's get back to the issue what you asked me about the mites, Reuven. So strawberries. The only way you can eat strawberries, the only way is by cutting the top off, taking a peeler, completely peeling the full strawberry. After it's completely peeled, of course, try to take a big strawberry. Should be more practical. Rinse it well, and you could eat it without checking necessary. But strawberries itself, you can't touch. In one package of strawberries, you can have between 50 and 300 talayim. It depends on the package. Sometimes 50, and sometimes it can go up to 300. We counted down already once, up to 300 talayim in one package of strawberries. So that's why I say the solution to the strawberry is only peeling. Now, if an average person goes into a supermarket and picks up a package of strawberries, and you start to look, you will not see a bug. Average person will not see a bug. People tell me all the time, everybody says strawberries has bugs, where are the bugs? So the way how we show for people the bugs in it is we soak the strawberries in water. Plain, simple water. No soap, nothing. Just soak it in water for 3 minutes. Not much, 3 minutes. After 3 minutes, we remove the strawberries from the water. We put it back to the box, the original box. So now I have water in front of me. This water was soaked strawberries for 3 minutes in it. I take this water, I sift it through a 80 micron mesh. That's the shmata we call it. It's 80 micron mesh. It's not a regular.
What is this? Is 80 micron is a regular shirt more or less than that? If I took an undershirt or a shirt.
It's hard to combine with shirts. It has to be exact 80 microns. Certain shirts would, certain woods didn't. I'm not sure.
Is your average shirt is it denser or not?
It's a good question. I never checked I never checked the shirts. I never checked the shirts. It's a good question. But it's a shmata. Now we sell it, in certain stores we sell it as, these are touchy subject about orange juice. We're not going to get into it. Maybe you would, I don't know. But now we sell in certain stores by the orange juice sections. We sell a special filter. That's the 80 micron mesh. Some people like to filter the orange juice for chashash. What we have about it. So that's the mesh size what we're using right now. So I take the water, I put it through the 80 micron mesh. That's called the shmata, we call it. It takes a half a second. The water goes through.
Okay.
And what happens is the water goes to the drain, but all the particles what inside the water stay stuck on top of the mesh. Then we take this mesh. We put it onto the light box, and over there you can see the full chasana. You can see the thrips, the mites, the aphids, and it's crawling. This is actually how the way we train in Mashgiachim. The way how we train in these days is you have to take a strawberry mesh shmata, like I just described to you what we do. You have to pick out every single bug. You're not allowed to leave a bug behind. This is how we train in Mashgiachim. That's why our Mashgiachim are much better in these days when it comes to Talayim. Now, I had this Rabbi Dovid come from CRC Chicago, came down once to my lab. And it was a nice few years ago, and it's still stuck in my brain, this story. And I made him a shmata b'dika. I made the strawberries, I soaked it in the water, mashed it through, put it onto the light box. And he says he wants to see a mite. So I showed him a mite. He says, I don't see it. So I said, okay. I take out from my pocket a loop and ask him, do you want a loop? He says, no, the Torah doesn't say we need loops. So I'm standing there and I'm trying to think for a second. So I asked him, what is your eyesight? Because today, when a Mashgiach comes to learn Talayim, the first thing we do an eye test. So how do we do an eye test? We take a $20 bill. On the $20 bill is a certain line, and I tell them to read me that line, a very small line. If they can read me that line, then we take them in and we start to train them for bugs. If they're not able to read that certain line on the $20 bill, we don't even start to train him in, because his eyesight is not made for small particles. So I started with Rabbi Dovid, what is your eyesight? And
this was with Rabbi David Cohen?
Yeah, it was actually in the Kosher Garden's lab when I was standing with him. He came down to my lab in Pennsylvania, in Allentown. So I asked him, what is your eyesight? While I'm talking to him, these mites started to run onto the light box because the heat of the light box dried out the mesh, and the mites started to come back to themselves and started to run. So he was able to see how these mites are running. So I told him, no, what do you say now? You still don't see it? He says, now it's a problem. I asked him why. He says, Rashi says, Sherotz. What means Sherotz? It's so small, the bug. It's so small, you can only see when it runs. And that's a certain size of mites. What expert Mashgiachim, people trained, they can pick it up right away. The average person sees a dot. They see it. They see the dot in the naked eye. Problem is, they're not sure if the dot is a bug or a piece of dirt, and sometimes they don't even recognize it. And they can go through it. So that's what we're talking about, the milven. These are the mites.
Okay, so I have a question for you.
Yes, sure.
In the olden times, right, in the olden ages, they didn't have the light boxes. They didn't have, the labs. What did they do?
Good. So the Torah is not game for Kamalochem, right? We know that. It's made for human beings. So there is certain bugs. But we don't see when they make an eye. I went down to the Columbia University, and I had over 1,000 nematodes. Nematodes is a certain insect in the soil. You look when they make an eye, you didn't see anything. You look with loops, you didn't see anything. You put it under the microscope, you'll be able to see 1,000 nematodes in a jar running around. That's called not Nirah Leynaim. Now,
what did they do in the olden days? They didn't have electricity. They didn't even have electricity. So what did they do in Poland? Where they came from?
So I'm going now to that question. Yeah. So what is given in the Heim? What do we do in the Heim? So there's a few answers on these questions. A few answers on that. First of all, we see the Friedige are writing about bugs, gefährlich. Ben Schai writes about grape leaf. Gefährlich writes on it. Then we know in the Heim we had in Poland cabbage. And we know the old women used to give tzedakah to every bug they used to find. They used to check under the sun for hours and hours and hours. And we know certain tzaddikim, Elliot and certain tzaddikim, never, certain tzaddikim never ate any fruits or vegetables what they needed the bediken. Elchiyiden,
but let me ask you a question. The Shulchan Aruch in Reish Gimel talks about the Hochas Brachas. And the Aruch HaShulchan and the Mishnah Berurah, they talk about what bracha you make on raspberries, what bracha you make on strawberries, what bracha you make on millberries, on mulberries, and anu noyagim, the lashon of the Aruch HaShulchan is anu noyagim on raspberries to make ha'etz. How did he eat raspberries? They didn't have light boxes. They didn't have 80 centimeter shmata bedikas. What did they do?
Correct. So the Israel Chaim HaKadosh. Chaim HaKadosh says every year from the Charbon Beis HaMikdash is a curse, a klola. The curse goes worse and worse year to year. That's why things are getting more buggy. That's one thing it could be. And
you think that there are more bugs today than there were in the time of the thing?
I know for sure because when I started 25 years ago doing Taloyim, these certain bugs we didn't have, and now we have them here in the States. Like whiteflies.
But hello, thrips, mites. These have been around from time immemorial. I'm not talking about some fancy Chinese bug, right?
Right. So mites was around we know from the Friediger from Milven, we know that. Now, mites, Shechanach talks about mites, Milven and the flower. And they say like water. Shechanach talks about water. You should filter your water because of the bugs in the water.
Right.
We know.
So how did they eat strawberries? Strawberries are full of all these thrip. You said it's not possible to be biodic strawberry, basically. So what did they do?
The Paleoids writes already about Tutin, not to eat Tutin. The Paleoids writes already about
but the Mishnah Berurah and the Aruch HaShulchan do talk about eating it, right? So
correct.
So how did they do it? They should have said it's impossible to eat them.
So that's why, Taka. So maybe they peeled it. I don't know. Maybe they. I
never heard of peeling. You're the first time in my life I ever heard of peeling a strawberry. Honestly,
it's interesting you say that because I think you live in Muncie, correct?
Right.
Evergreen in Muncie sells peeled strawberries a whole year round, and it goes so fast. They had to hide the price just to quiet it down.
The next time you find me in Evergreen, you'll make a shechianu.
Okay. Actually, I have there a student of mine, a good Talmud of mine. He checks over there. If you walk in over there, tell the Mashgiach. I don't know if I want to mention his name on the show, but you can always go into him. He will show you everything we're talking about.
So my point is to you, the Mishnah Berurah, the Aruch HaShulchan, talk about the brachas you make and all these things. None of them talk about peeling strawberries. So is it possible? That they were nichshel, all of them?
I think I don't think so. I think that's Yata the Shemaya. I know the Gemara talks about figs. Let's say if you bought figs, you have to take in calculation that 10% of the figs has bugs, and you cannot call them moichet to the entire. He sold you Taloyim with figs in it. So we see, and the Gemara also talks about bugs. So it's probably were very careful. They checked it. They worked very hard to make sure.
You're telling me it's impossible to eat strawberries, right? They talk about the brachas you make on strawberries.
On strawberries, it's very hard. It's very hard on strawberries because if you have between 50 and 300 Taloyim on strawberries.
I'm asking you. So how did they eat it? And I'll tell you something more. Maybe you're going to say that they were shoygeg, right? They didn't know.
I wouldn't say that. I think we need to have siyata d'shmaya. Maybe they had a lot of siyata d'shmaya.
How did they eat strawberries? You're telling me with siyata d'shmaya there's less than 300 bugs in a strawberry?
No, but I hear.
So
I hear your question. I don't know.
But I have an answer.
No.
Okay, I'll tell you my answer. My answer is that there's 3 gedarim, right? There's a bug that's Nirah Leynaim. If you look in a lettuce, you see an ant running around. Everybody sees an ant that's Nirah Leynaim, right?
Mm-hmm.
You see bugs that are invisible. You need a microscope, like dust mites.
Correct.
Every time you go to sleep at night, if you would look, there's millions of dust mites going into your mouth.
Correct.
There's no issue. And then there are things like thrips and mites, which are called milben, right? Which on milben, the Chazon Ish says, it's too small, and it's not called a berry anymore. Right? And it's not just, let me just finish. It's not just the Chazon Ish, but it's a whole bundle of poskim, that aren't, that hold, that something, that's ein a nicker, l'ayin either. Here's the Lashon of the Chazon Ish Nirah Leynaim, Yudal Reisvav. Yesh makim lahakal, the hamilbin, lahaflogas katnusam. He's talking about mites. Vade avdu hakaras ayin. V'yesh kan bittel yavesh biyavesh. So he says they're bottle because they're so small. And he says, and even if they're a beria, the gamim yesh kan safig beria. He says it's a safig drabanan because a beria midaraisa is bottle. The efsha the kol she'ein hayin shoylet by lav berihi. It's not even a drabanan. It loses its shem beria, right? So that's it's the Chazon Ish. It's because what am I struggling with? But Pashtus, I would say, look, in the olden times they lived in dark houses. Glass is a relatively new invention, right? It's a few hundred years old. That means you go back 1,000 years ago, they didn't even have glass in their homes. right? So if they lived in a cold climate, they were standing outside in a dark day checking, you're not going to see much. They couldn't see through the windows, right? So what do we say? Oh, look, now we know better. Baruch Hashem, we have scientific instruments, we do much better. The problem with that is that we have Gedolei Achrayim, including the Shach, and the Mesilas Yesharim writes about it, who says that by Mechalos Asuris, even if you're an Einis, forget about a Shaygeg, it's Metamtem Es Halev. So are we going to say that that Rizal, the Baal Shem Tov, the Nirah Leynaim, the Mesilas Yesharim, the Shach, they all had Timtum Alev because they didn't have light boxes, they didn't have fluorescent lights, they didn't have Shmata Bedika? I think that's a difficult thing to say. Would you agree?
Correct. Now, we know from all the Kabbanas of the Beis Hamikdash, what people used to bring, there was one carbon, oilus hatumet, we brought twice a day.
Right.
Question is, why we brought the oilus hatumet twice a day? Every carbon was once a day, oilus hatumet was twice a day. So Zud the Heilige Rizal, oilas has the words in it, toilaya.
Right.
The wording, and we need it twice a day.
And therefore?
It shows, as you say, then we hope not to be nichshol in it. In even the times of the Beis Hamikdash, we had to bring twice a carbon for eating bugs.
I'm agreeing with you that it needs a carbon, let's say, right? If in
but it needed twice.
I understand, but Timtum Alevi Geblibin, right? So, Rabbi Kiva, so I want to ask you a question, Rabbi Dovid.
That's a machloikis.
I understand that, but the Shach, Gedolei Achrayim hold away. So I disagree. I'm asking you, if Rabbi Kiva had Timtum Alev, so Baruch Hashem in our doyer that doesn't have Timtum Alev, we should be vaxing guys younger light, aggressive Rabbi Kiva, Chesidim aggressive in the Baal Shem Tov, Poiskim aggressive in Shach and Taz. I'm not seeing that.
Okay, so did I answer that first of all? Tzadikim in the Altaheim, the Chassam Sofer used to have his Talmidim check his lettuce 3 times before Pesach. He never ate anything with it.
But a strawberry is not checkable.
1 second. He used the romaine lettuce. He used to check it 3 times. And then the second day in the morning, the leftovers, the Rebbetzin of the Chassam Sofer used to want to make a salad and give it to eat because Pesach has almost nothing to eat. He wouldn't eat it.
What about strawberries, buddy? He didn't buy his straw. Everybody's famous. Everybody knew that romaine lettuce. My father, we had on Rabbi Yankov's granddaughter, she said that everybody was buying romaine lettuce. Yadua. We spoke to people for the Gedolim. They never saw them sitting there soaking strawberries, and eating strawberries, which you say are impossible to eat without peeling. Rabbi Yankov didn't peel his strawberries. Rabbi Moshe didn't peel his strawberries. I don't know. We'll get on somebody from the Staten Rebbe whether he peeled his strawberries. How did they all eat strawberries? Did they all have Timtum Alev? I'm telling you. So what are the answers? Let me just give you a group of answers. One is that something that's so small doesn't, even if an expert could tell you, yes, that black spot is going to run it, that's not called the mamish ktanim. Moshe writes it in Chel Gimel, Malamed Aleph. If it's mamish ktanim, right, and he says ulai ef shalahakir mahem klal al yidei einai, he says it's not called. These are like contemporaries, the Chazedish and Moshe, right? The Aruch HaShulchan famously brings 3 more reasons why. He says a beria is batal be'elef. It's the shitas of Rashba, etc. Most achrayim argue on that, but he brings that as one of the heterim. Another reason he brings the famous Mishkinas Yankov. Also, by the way, Mishkinas Yankov says he says his lashon is me oisem katnusam nevad mamashan v'udavar hamisarish mamish. He says right. He says something that's mos is not a barrier. The praise he says because it's not necessary mitchilasa. You need richesh. You have the shivas tzion that says it blibes misasik. It's a davar she'ein miskavin. You have I'm saying there's they ate them for thousands of years. I'm saying I can't believe that they were all nichshal in such isurim chamurim and had timtum alev. So I'm saying if we have today, Baruch Hashem, light boxes and microscopes, but isn't there by Klal Yisrael some type of a Kabbalah, to say was haben unsere Zaydes getan? Your Zaydes didn't have light boxes or fluorescent lights, and they ate strawberries. That's my question.
So the Chassam Soifer, in the morning, the second day, the Rebbetzin took the leftovers of the lettuce from the last 2 nights, and she wanted to make a salad. He didn't eat. They asked him why doesn't he eat? Last 2 nights he ate it. I'm not finish. So the Gedolim we know didn't eat anything has a chashash talayim. This is what we know the Gedolim tzaddikim did. The question you asked me why we don't see bigger tzaddikim growing up in this door. My grandfather, the old school Rebbe,
but respectfully, you're talking about lettuce, what everybody knew, right? But then again, strawberries, everybody ate. I'm bringing you they talk about what brachas they're noyig to make on them, and at the same time, you say it's impossible.
Correct.
So it's not the lettuce. So what do we do with that?
So let's get back to the strawberry. So we know by the lettuce, as the Gedol Ador and the Klal Yisrael had put an amazing energy before Pesach, because they were so scared for it. Not only that, the Mishnah Berurah brings down on Hilchos Pesach is if you're not an expert and you don't have a good eye, you shouldn't eat more for Pesach. You should only the horseradish. The Mishnah Berurah brings that down. So we know in the Mishnah Berurah's time he was holding already that mahalach.
Right.
And you should be careful for the bugs. And we know the Peliois says not to eat tutin anymore. Now, if Klal Yisrael was working so hard for Pesach, for the Romain letters, like you remember your grandfather, like everybody remembers their grandfather before we had the process stuff we have today. And everybody remembers that. It means as Klal Yisrael took it very serious, and they were not much hesitating with it. So the question is, what happened between the Romain letters for Pesach and strawberries?
And strawberries and blackberries and raspberries and mulberries.
It's a steer, because here for Pesach, your mom is going with sugar for it. People were going nuts. And here, what happened here?
Right.
No, the rest of the stuff, it's a good question. It's a very good question. So we see with the Ehrlich Eden, they didn't eat. They were makbid. The bottom and the Haim, we know already passes ball, like they started already to talk about bugs. People should be careful for it. And they're trying the best to tell people to Are you
a Sat Machasser at all or no?
And my grandfather was I wanted to tell you about the story. My grandfather, was one god, I don't remember which name it was. He came to my grandfather and asked him, today we have so much yeshivas. Old school year was my grandfather. He has so much yeshivas and so much Gemara, so much learning today. We are the Gedolim. He says, the difference is, in the Haim, what's geplucked for Torah. We worked hard, up all night, it was cold. And what's geplucked for Torah, that's why we have Gedolim. Today, it's easy, it's bequem. So that's why we even have everything.
Hello, it's the Lashon HaGemara.
Yeah.
Shayne Masr Nafshayu. But my question is, did the Satmar Rebbe, do you know, did he eat strawberries?
Oh, good question. So I met Rabbi Meisels.
Yeah.
He's the son of Yosef Meisel, Rosh Yeshivah of Staten, and he told me, he has even a taschentichel. I say a taschentichel in English, a cloth. But the Satmar Rebbe, he loved to eat strawberries because it was very soft. And he used to eat strawberries. One day, somebody came to the shul and put up a sign, strawberries has bugs. Talking about 60 years ago. And Satmar saw the sign, he says, wow, I had one fruit I was able to eat, it was also taken away from me.
So you're saying that I'm asking you for years and years he was nichshel and he had timtum alev. That's the bottom line.
I cannot say timtum.
You're going to make a lot of Israelis happy. They're going to say,
you can ask the same question about the bugs in the water, right? We have cocoa pots. The whole New York City has cocoa pots. Not whole. Brooklyn has cocoa pots in their water, right? So we figured it out a few years ago, and now we have filters, Baruch Hashem. Until then, everybody was nichshel.
I don't know.
It's a good question. It's the same question. It's the same question.
And I would answer that I didn't. You know what? I didn't go through the sugya of cocoa pods, but I did go through the sugya of bugs. So I don't know if that's called Nirah Leynaim according to the Chazanish. And again, I'll quote his exact lashon. Me'otzem katnusim. Let me just make sure I have the letter here.
Yeah.
The hamilbin, are the cocoa pods smaller than mites or not?
No. Mites, see, milben, thrips are big. If it's big, milben, there's a few stages. If you Google it, there's a few stages of milben. The first stage of milben, that's mites, it's very small. And it's very hard to see.
According to the internet, it's 0.4 of an inch. 0.04 of an inch. 0.04 of an inch.
It can get bigger and bigger and bigger.
So I'm asking you, when he talks about the milben, lahaflagas katnusam, right? He's talking about the first stage. He's talking about. So I'm asking you, the anthropods in the water, how do they compare to milben?
Oh no, cocopods in the water are much bigger. And people. So I do this by my classes. People say, I'm in Borough Park. I fill up a cup of water. I don't see any bugs. Where are the bugs?
Right.
It's very easy to see. You have to make sure when you open the water, you fill up the cup with water. Make sure that thing doesn't have a filter. That's number one. You have to make sure because most things have filters by now. And then you take a black cloth or you take your Birkas, something black, and you put it around the cup. Then because the cocoa pot is white, you're going to start to see how the cocoa pot is swimming in the water.
My question to you is, are you mechuyev to do that or not?
Because once you take away the black, once you see it in your eye, and then you take away the black cloth,
but if it takes
you can see it.
I don't mean that, but if it takes a trained eye with certain blackness, you have to have light, you have to have black. Is that called something that's Nirah Leynaim? That's what I want to know.
Nirah Leynaim. So this shaila was brought up to Rabbi Yashiv, to Rabbi Ozner, and to Rabbi Weiss. That's called Nirah Leynaim. They pass in 0.002 of a millimeter.
Okay, but
I have it in Biksav. I
understand that.
I can email it to you.
Hello.
This is what they pass.
But this is like, these are things. How do you? I'm saying there's no makor to any of this. Here's the lashon of the. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Actually, what's the lashon of the Ramah? Give me the lashon.
Lashon of Ramosha Feinstein.
Yeah.
I'll give you a lashon of a bunch of the achronim. Here's the Mishkinas Yankiv. Something that me'otzem katnusam nevid mamashin hu davar hamisarev mamish v'nidbak bepaslish and isarev betafshel v'ef shelafridem klal k'may hamilben haktanim. He says if it's so small, in other words, the svar of the Mishkinas Yankiv is the reason why by davar hanikar you don't say bittel. Because Rapashis you say battel. By davar that's nicker, you say there's no bittel. So, for example, if you have 100 oranges in a thing and you throw in an apple, you could say it's bottle. You say no, it's nicker. Take the apple out. So the Mishkinas Yankiv svara is, and the Ksav Sofer has a similar svara. He says is that it's how are you going to get that out? It's you can't take this but you can't put your finger in. Teretz says you could use a this and a that. He says that doesn't matter. That's called already that it's so small that it becomes nisarev and it becomes bottle. And you see that svara by a bunch of achronim, and I think that's why. You asked the strawberries. I think if somebody wants to be makbid and nizer because exactly what's called nicker is not so clear, it's wonderful. But to say that Rabbi Kivega was nichshel, or that the Satmar Rebbe, the first 60 years of his life, was nichshel every day, 1,000 times in Isurim of eating strawberries, right? There has to be an alternative understanding. And the only alternative I have is that something that's so small, well, there's a lot of alternatives. I can give you 6 or 7, but the clearest one is that something like this doesn't. You have davashenim eskavin, etc. But you have something that's not nicker la'ayin it becomes bottle and in this hapach laheter. You see, if you go with the other svara, another svara, let's say that a lot of you, let's say the Tzemach Tzedek, the Lubavitcher uses this svara. He says that just like there's a concept of misasek. Niskavin lagbia mechuber atolush v'gbia hamechuber yipatakas misasek, or arguably Kiveger, and I think it's in Tzadik Zion, brings a svara. Don't quote me on that. It says there's a svara of it's davar she'ein miskavin. Lashal the Taz and Arachaim talks about where you close a box that's full of flies. That is, and there's a fly in it. Are you over al tzeda? So the Taz says no because it's a davar she'ein miskavin. So Rabbi Kivega says that. So So, but the problem with Davar She'ein Miskavin, you're still eating Machalas Asuris. Whereas if you say something that Mi'otzim Katnusai becomes bottle, then it becomes Nisapach Laheta, so that more there's no more, it doesn't have it in Machalas Asuris anymore. Right? So I'm just saying there are many different svaras here, but I'm very loath to say that all our Zaydis, including the Satmar Rebbe, the first 50, 60, 70 years of his life when he wanted to, was over hundreds of times a day in Machalas Asuris. That's what I'm struggling with.
Yeah, I hear. So the water issue is the Shechanach talks beferish. Even the way how we see water is by the cup, and we take the cup, we put a black cloth around it to see the white cocoa pot. Is the Shechanach talks about already sifting the water. Yaakov Emden has a big chiddush, a very big chiddush. He says if you see it under a microscope, it's oichtase. We don't. I don't tell my Mashgiach who I trained in all my Talmidim to look under a microscope for that reason. The reason why we train the Mashgiachim these days is I do not tell them when they get to the job and have to actually do what they need to do. They don't really use any loops. They use their own simple eyes. Just the eye is trained in to know what to look for. Like this, we can stay on the safe side because we know Taloyim, we're talking about 6, 7 laven. If you see a bug crawling and you eat it, it's laven, it's no joke. So that's why we try to save Klal Yisrael on it, and we try to educate Klal Yisrael, and we try to help Klal Yisrael, mostly, to stay on the safer side with this issue. And not only that, in Pasha Shemini, by Mafta, the Torah says, "Hamal eschem eretz Mitzrayim." Asks Rosh on the spot. Why?
Okay. Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I want to finish this point. Why Hamal eschem? Everything. The Torah mentions 1,000 times. Tzeisi Mitzrayim, Hamal eschem. So Rashi says on the spot, the reason why it was Hamal eschem to go out of Mitzrayim because they took onto themselves they're not going to eat shrotzim or remozim. So he brings down Turim Vayra B'Shmuel on the spot. Rashi on the spot. He says that not only you should know the shoyness from the names of the bugs, like trips, mites, aphids, weed miners, and scales, and whatever other bugs. Not only that, you should be buki v'nuki mem. Rashi says you should become a mamash, an expert in bugs. So, of course, in everything we can argue both sides, and at least as ehrlich Yidden, frim Yidden, we try to do the best to help and to do good for everybody. That's what we're trying to do.
Okay, let me ask you another question. You grow for positive and kosher garden.
Positive
you grow in Mexico. Why? And what are you doing in Mexico? I'm curious.
Okay, so positive kosher gardens had bought a property in Mexico where they built their own greenhouses. They invested millions of dollars over there. Why Mexico? Of course, in Mexico the labor is $1 an hour, and here we're paying $15 an hour. It's for the labor issue. We're saving money on labor. That's one reason. Another thing is if you're going to grow it, you can't grow it in New York. If you grow it in California. In California, it's very expensive to buy property where it grows. So you go to Mexico, it's cheaper. And we try to do it to be and we've tried to make a Chazaka to be Mita Motzi, Michena Motzi. We try to keep it in that category.
How do you do that? How do you keep it Mita Chena Motzi? What do you do?
So we check 10% while it's growing. So that means we keep it.
But how do you keep the bugs there? What do you have, like a magic? What's the magic?
No, so of course on the air we can't give out the magic, right? I'm just joking. It's a mesh that we cover with the romaine grows, and we send the Mashgiachim checking every single day to make sure there's no bugs coming to it.
And what do they do if they find bugs?
Right, if they do find bugs, there's 2 options. It depends which bug. Let's say if we found a thrip. So we take that section, we have to check automatically much more from that section if a thrip came into that section.
Right.
If we find much more, then we have to harvest that, replow it and start again. If we find one and we didn't find more, we're going to little spray on that section to make sure there's no other bugs over there. And we're going to continue growing.
And what type of spray do they use?
Oh, today, all the sprays, all the chemicals we use today is almost gone as vert. People ask me, what happened, what was 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago? People don't ask me what's in the Altaheim. And 20, 30 years ago, we had the DDT. It was a good chemical, a strong chemical. It killed the bugs, really got them out of our way. And the UN, I think so, all the countries have agreed to ban that chemical. And since then, every year, every good chemical is being banned. all these chemicals we're using today is almost no chemical. Now again, we do some stadlers, whatever they have available.
But they don't allow DDT in Mexico either?
No. In the whole world, not only that, Mexico is even more strict than the U.S. when it comes to chemicals because they try to impress the whole world to buy their products. So they're very, very strict. All our trucks go through the border, through the FDA, everything. Our whole plant is approved with the FDA. That means the chemicals what we're using have to be approved with the FDA, and everything is being inspected. It's much easier to have chemicals in the U.S. than having in Mexico, where we're holding now these days.
So let me ask you. So what's your goal? Your goal is to keep it at less than 10%. What's your goal with bugs?
We check 10% of the product. We try to keep it to be meat and motzi. We try to keep it.
Mi'achayin motzi, you mean?
Mi'achayin motzi. Mi'achayin motzi, the meat and motzi. We try to keep it the lowest possible.
How low do you try to keep it? What's your goal?
The goal is 1 out of 100.
Realistically, how much are you getting? If I checked 10 kilos of your product, would I find any bugs?
So no, you wouldn't find. Now the reason depends when also depends. It's a season. So let's say the trips migrate from country to country. So let's say the migration comes into my area. It's a big war, and sometimes I lose. You have to take a whole greenhouse and throw it away. I don't know, maybe 2, maybe 3. It's a migration. It's in the whole ranch. So when the migration comes, what are we going to do? You have to parcel. When the migration is not there, it's quiet, it's calm, we should be Matzliach. And if God forbid the aphid comes in, they produce every 20 minutes another baby, it's done. Even one aphid, we're done. We out of there. So this is part of the process. That's why people ask why they pay so much money for the lettuce. People don't understand how much koich is.
So, Mr. How much? If I took 100 kilo of your lettuce, right, or your broccoli, or your strawberries, right, would I find 0? Give me a statistic?
Yeah. So,
0.
So we make in our lab between 200 and 300 bedikas a day.
Right.
Right. If we can find, let's say, one sheretz a day, that then of course is being rejected and being researched. If that happens, from where it comes, which side of the greenhouse, make sure it's in the hole and see how this happens. If that happens, but we usually make 300 bedikas a day. We find usually be clean. This is our goal. This is what we're trying to do. This is what we're trying to sell. We're not trying to sell bugs.
So I miss you. So when you do your 300 bedikas a day, how many bugs do you find?
Again, we try to get it.
But if you looked at a log of the last month of bedikas, right, and they did 300 bedikas a day, how many would have you found?
The last month was everything good, Rosh Hashem, because it's cold now. And
okay, take a July. How many would you find? I'm just trying to get an understanding. Give me some metrics here.
In July, we could farm to 2-3 bugs a day. We could farm.
Okay, So then that means that there's going to be 2 or 3 bugs in the. You're only checking 10%. I mean, some is getting through, a small number, right?
Wherever we find a bug, that section of the greenhouse has to be parceled.
I understand that, but you're only checking 10%, right? So if you're finding 3 bugs in 10%, right, it's fair to say that every other 10% also has 3 bugs. That's math, right?
I did that math once.
If X
I did that math. I did already that math once, and the way how I did it, I checked more, almost trying to check 100%. I had already once. We made a study.
Rabbi Goldstein, my question, Rabbi Goldstein, I'm just saying, if 10% of X equals 3, right?
I hear what
then
you say.
Any other? Okay, so my question is, those people who are eating that, right?
Yes.
Somebody who ate that bug, is he now over on the Isser of Machalas Asur, and does he have Timtum Halev?
According to the Paskin, no.
Why?
Timtum Halev, I don't know.
I'm asking about Timtum Halev. That's what I'm asking about.
Timtum Halev, B'chama Kodesh, Shogi Kamezet.
Yeah, I'm telling you, so does he have Timtum Halev or not?
Good question. I don't know the answer for it.
Okay, so I'm providing an answer, by the way, just for the record. Okay, but because it's even by Oinus, you see, by Meinekis, by Moshe, it doesn't matter, right? So here's my question: if you buy triple washed lettuce you buy the mescaline in the store that's triple washed, right?
Yes.
I had a Mashgiach from Eretz Yisrael, and I had another Mashgiach yesterday. Both told me they never found a bug in the triple washed lettuce. What's your experience?
That Mashgiach told you yesterday he never found in triple.
He's going to be on the air. We have him on the air. He's a Rabbi Duvdevani. He is Rabbi Weiss's. Everything he does, he's sort of Rabbi Weiss's bug man. Is this fellow? Right? He's the bug expert. He's his etymologist for the sake of.
I give him a lot of honor and credit. Whoever tells you he never found after triple wash a bug has no clue what he's talking.
Okay. And then I had another guy last night. I was asked the same question. He runs a restaurant. I said, what do you use? He says, we use the triple washed. He says, we're biting it. We've never found in the triple washed a bug. That's what he told me.
Good. So, good. That example you just gave me, a restaurant. Triple wash never found a bug. Reb Dovid, I'm willing to go down together with you to that restaurant. To meet that Mashgiach.
Reb Dovid, you know what I would like to do? Let's go to the store together. We'll buy a bag of triple washed, and you'll show me the bugs. But
that's very easy to do. Oh, but that Pacific restaurant.
Yeah.
I would love to go down with you to that Pacific restaurant in 5 minutes.
But you don't.
5 minutes.
Whatever you're going to do with that restaurant, you could do it in my house. Next time you're in Manhattan, you'll come. I'm in the city a lot of times. We'll go together because, and I believe I would take the position that is not Nirah Leynaim, and I'm sure that there's some etymologist who could tell you that on your pillow there's thousands of thrips and dust mites that are causing allergies. You
got to be careful with the names of the books. Thrips are not on your pillow. Mites are here.
Dust mites.
Now, in the romaine lettuce. But that restaurant checks the spring.
He said they don't use romaine lettuce. We just use mescaline. That's what he said.
Mescaline mix. His mescaline you use. It's impossible. After 3 times washing, you should not have bugs. Impossible.
A pleasure. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Joining us from Lakewood is Rabbi Etti Neustadt, who's an anikel of Rabbi Yaakov Kamenetsky, a niece of Rabbi Shmuel Kamenetsky. Her father, Rabbi Avram Kamenetsky, was the youngest son of Rabbi Yaakov Kamenetsky, who he spent the most time at. Her husband was the Av Bezdin of Detroit, the Vadrabanim of Detroit. Today he's the Rav of Pine River Village. Welcome, Rabbi Neustadt.
Thank you.
So, you cooked for Rabbi Yaakov. You saw the way Rabbi Yaakov ate. So, did he eat vegetables? What processes did he have in place? Give us, when there's so much halacha being discussed, our Kabbalah is that, I used to hear this from Rav Hutner, the Yiddish Shabbos Vesen the Beste. Right? Maya Madavar. What did they really do? Did your grandfather have a light box? Did he use magnifying glass? Just, what was the house when you cooked for your grandfather?
Okay, so it wasn't that I actually cooked for him. I did help with the meals. My grandfather was in the house quite frequently. The last few years he lived there. In the beginning he was probably there once a week. And my mother cooked the suppers, the breakfast, lunch, and supper. He was not a very big eater. He enjoyed good food. The meals were basically a soup, a main, and a vegetable. And I guess a rice or potatoes, which he did not like that much. He did not like potatoes that much. We did not grow up in a generation with a lot of vegetables. We had basic cucumbers, tomatoes, peppers, and I do not remember as a little girl having lettuce in the house. As I got a little bit older, we did have lettuce in the house. Cabbage was in the house a lot. That was checked. It was cut into 4. The core was taken out and soaked in a big bowl. I did speak to my aunt, Rebbetzin Rivka Diskind, recently, just this week, of course, and I asked her, I said, back in Sitavian, back in Toronto, did you eat vegetables and were they checked? It was a matter of conversation. I love hearing back in the days. And she said everything was checked, but we had nothing to check. Meaning the back in Lita was only potatoes, radishes, and in the summertime there were blueberries and strawberries, which I guess go in the fruit category. She said they were checked. How were they checked? And I have to tell you that growing up all the years in the bungalow colony, we collected strawberries and blueberries. We went into the woods, collected them on Fridays, Thursdays, and Fridays. They sat in a bowl of water probably the whole day. And as my father recalled, smetana and krishkafkis were a favorite of the family, the Kamenetsky family, back on Shabbos Shalashudas. So were they checked? I can't answer you. They were soaked and looked through. But I think things were differently. I think that we had DDT.
Wait, you didn't have DDT on stuff you found in the forest.
No, probably not. Probably not.
So when you say smetana, my Polish isn't so good. Smetana.
Okay, is sour cream and berries. Krishkafkis could be either strawberries or blueberries. I would say it's a family of berries, but I knew that word since I was probably 2 years old because we loved it. I don't know if we really loved it, but we loved it because my Zayda loved it, my father loved it, so we loved it.
Okay, so you checked them, but let's talk. What does checking mean? Did you
They soaked. They were soaked. That was it.
Did they cut off like the whole? Did they cut off the whole tops of? They didn't. No. They soaked them, but they didn't cut off the tops of them. And this is you're talking about wild strawberries. Right. Did he have a light box?
No, he did not. We did have a light for romaine lettuce Erev Pesach. And that I watched my Zayda clean, I watched my father clean, and it was a full day affair. They had one of those little lamps with a bright bulb, and it was a mess. There were bowls of water on the table. It went from one bowl to the other bowl to kosher salt, and they did check the romaine lettuce. And I think because it was used Pesach, it was never used again during the year because it took so long. And I have to say, it's probably, probably as an 8-year-old.
Wasn't there an attitude, sort of a feeling, because my experience is the same, is that sort of that romaine lettuce was muchzik to be full of bugs?
Yes, it was. Yeah, that's what we grew up, that you could only have a Pesach, and it was hours and hours of checking. And I do remember one Seder that my Zayda said, let's change to endives. I do remember that I must have been a teenager then, because the bugs were so many that Erev Pesach.
And did your grandfather eat broccoli?
No.
Did he eat cauliflower?
No.
When you say no, is it because he didn't eat it, or it just wasn't something that was eaten, like where he came from?
It wasn't something that was eaten where they came from, and it wasn't eaten in my house. So I never saw him eating it. I don't think he ever ate it. I did see green beans cooked in the house. And from cooked vegetables, probably, besides potatoes and radishes and beets. Beets were also used. And those were peeled. I mean, I'm dating myself, but broccoli and cauliflower were... I don't think I had broccoli and cauliflower till I was in my very high teens. So I did not grow up with it.
So you say strawberries were washed, but they did not cut off the tops of them. Did you ever eat asparagus?
No.
What about, they certainly ate cabbage, right?
Right. Cabbage was a mainstay.
It was a staple. So how would they buy the cabbage?
All I remember was that it was cut into 4. The core was taken out. It was sliced into 4. Again, was put into a big bowl of, I think there was salt into the water, and then it was just separated and sliced into coleslaw or whatever else you cooked with.
But how did they check for bugs?
I have to say that you looked at the water. There were no light boxes. There was not that Erev Pesach light either.
Did they check the cabbage leaf by leaf?
I think when I was a young girl, they checked it leaf by leaf. As I got older, I remember some heter of checking the first 3.
The first 3 out of And how did they check that?
That was looked up. You looked up into all the kitchens had fluorescent lights, and I remember my mother looking up into the lights to see
if she could see a bug.
Right.
Now, do you remember, like, black specks? Did they look at it as bugs? Did they concerned? Like, how did they deal with that?
I think you threw it out. I think that if those 3 outer leaves had a black speck on it and it did not come off,
right,
it was thrown out.
What about lettuce? Did they eat lettuce? Did they eat iceberg lettuce?
Iceberg lettuce were eaten later on, not when we were younger. And again, that was done the same way as the cabbage. And we learned after cutting them with a metal knife that they turn brown. So finally somebody went and got a plastic knife. But the lettuce were, again, just looked at. We did not sit and take a light.
When you're saying when you grew up, they didn't have, I guess in Russia, they didn't have any of these things.
Right, there was no lettuce. There was no lettuce.
Yeah.
I was born in Brooklyn, but the lettuce, salads were not a mainstay in the Litvisher houses. Yeah,
I'll be honest with you. I remember a few years ago, I went with my wife to a restaurant, and my wife asked, "Do they have any vegetables?" So the guy said, "French fries is a French fries a vegetable." So it's not just in Russia. There are certain.
That's exactly what it was. They ate a lot of fruits and vegetables, but the oranges and the grapefruits. Grapes were washed, not looked through, just washed off.
What about, let's say, dates? They ate dates, right?
Yes, my grandfather had 2 dates and a grapefruit every day for a snack.
So what did he do for the dates? Did he open it? Did he examine it? Or he ate, what was the...
You know what? We ate them straight from that little plastic container.
Right.
They were served right on a beautiful dish all the time. My mother served him, and he had a grapefruit sliced. He used to slice it into 4, peel it, and then slice it again into the eighths, and ate piece by piece with the 2 dates. And then later on in the evening, sometimes he would take a date with his tea.
Did you ever eat in the house with Shmuel Kamenetsky?
When?
Have you ever had him as a guest? Have you ever seen him? Have you eaten with him by simchas, etc.?
Yes.
Does he eat berries? Does he eat fruits? Does he also? Do you know if his hanhagas are different than his father's? Like, has the sort of the?
You know what? You're putting me on the spot. I think that anywhere that I've eaten with him was under a Kashrus agency. So
okay, that's
never
what we do. At home. You weren't in his house or at your house.
No, I've served him in my house. I've served him many times in my house, and I've spent summers with him. Nowadays, we're lucky we get the process with the Hechsher.
Very good.
But I did live out of town where we did not get any positive Bodek, Kosher gardens, any of that. And I have to say that I checked lettuce every week.
Yeah.
I checked it with a light box and with a. Now, you know what? I have to say, not always with the light box, but with the fluorescent above.
Go ahead.
And it was one of my Shabbos shores.
Thank you for sharing your experience with us.
Okay. You're welcome.
Okay.
Yeah, hatzlacha.
Thank you, Kolta. Bye-bye.
I would like to correct a mistake. 2 weeks ago in our last program about medicine, we said that the only medical school in the world that's outside of Eretz Yisrael, that's sensitive to Kashrus, Shabbos, etc., was Turo. So we're going to have on a rabbi of another school who's going to correct it. Let's go to Rabbi Schrier.
Joining us from Albert Einstein School is Rabbi Elliot Schrier. He's a Talmud of Rabbi Yitzchak Elchanan. He's a Mutzmach of YU. He's the Rav of Birkas Shmuel, which is the Albert Einstein Synagogue, and he's joining us to correct a few, I would say, facts that we didn't have down pat. Welcome, Rabbi Schrier.
Thank you so much.
Rabbi Schrier, in our last, I think it was 2 weeks ago, we said that Turo is the only a medical school outside of Eretz Yisrael that gives their undergraduates, or rather their students, the ability to be Shem Shabbos Karoi, maybe Kaihanim to work not on cadavers, etc. And you say that, and you just want to correct some of the facts that we didn't have right. So, as the Rav of Albert Einstein, in effect, could you please bring us up to speed?
Yeah, sure. And I know this is like a very confusing parsha. You mentioned the sale of Einstein from Yeshiva University's Montefiore Medical Group that happened a few years ago. So I think it is worth clarifying a few points. I just want to preface it by saying that I was very appreciative of the program. I think these are really important issues for anybody who's considering going to medical school, any from person who's interested in pursuing a career in medicine, to be aware of. And it's very important that they hear about these issues and that they learn about these issues while preparing to go to medical school, while in medical school, so that they're ready to do everything properly. In terms of Einstein, so Einstein was sold by Yeshiva University to Montefiore Medical Group. It was a very complicated sale. I mean, apparently the sale itself is thousands of pages long. But there were several stipulations within the sale that maintained a connection between Einstein and YU. So Einstein is officially a YU affiliate. It's an affiliate of Yeshiva University. And that means several things. For the last several years, until Einstein achieved independent degree granting status, Yeshiva University was still administering the diplomas from Einstein. It still does so for foreign students that are not from the U.S. And I guess more importantly, more relevant to the conversation that we had 2 weeks ago, or that was on the program 2 weeks ago, two of the stipulations were that, number one, for perpetuity, Einstein is to maintain a Shomer Shabbos and Yom Tov calendar. There are no lectures, exams, rotation requirements on Shabbos or Yom Tov. Number two, that the food provided in the Einstein cafeteria would remain under Kosher supervision. It's currently supervised by the OU. So there's still many connections. There are many more as well. I mean, Einstein offers a lot of opportunities, not just from Sur Meirah to avoid Isurim on Shabbos and Yom Tov. There's a lot of Asay Tov as well. A lot of our students avail themselves of research opportunities in medical halacha. One of the faculty members here at Einstein is Rabbi Dr. Edward Reichman, who's one of the fantastic medical halacha educators out there today. He has a research elective, which many of our students take in Jewish medical ethics, in which they receive university credit for effectively learning sugyas. They receive credit and they deserve credit. The research is rigorous and it's intense, but they'll take a sugya starting from Shas, going to the Rishonim and through contemporary poskim, and they'll learn that for university credit. The medical school has been incredibly supportive of our Kehillah, which has become a real makom Torah and makom tefillah in Einstein in the most general sense, and in terms of medical halacha as well. Our Kehillah has published journals in the past, more recently a book on issues pertaining to medical halacha, and particularly issues that medical students and residents need to know in order to properly observe halacha through their time in medical school and residency. So even though, again, the sale from YU had to happen for a variety of reasons, but we still try to maintain a strong connection and a general atmosphere of Torah and Avodas Hashem here at Einstein.
Now, what, Rabbi Schrier, so I stand corrected, thank you. Now, what about Kaihanim? Do Kaihanim have to work on cadavers? Is there a possibility for Kaihanim to enter the program? Or is
right, so that was one thing where I was incredibly impressed that Dr. Kiddush was speaking about in terms of Turo. In terms of what happens here, there is no official dispensation for Kohanim to avoid working on a cadaver. It happens to be that one of the anatomy professors that many of our students have is actually a Kohen himself. He's not a frum Jew, but because he is Mibnei Aaron, he has a lot of sensitivity to it, and he allows the few. We don't have so many Kohanim in our Kehillah, quite understandably, but he has allowed them to avoid actually touching the cadaver itself. I would just emphasize, and I think this came out from your program 2 weeks ago also, the issues pertaining to Kohanim is not limited to medical school. Issues of Sof Tumalatses come up in residency and possibly as an attending as well. They say that Rosh Soloveitchik was pretty strongly against Kohanim attending medical school. So everybody needs to consult their own Mara Hora in terms of... As
was Ramosha Feinstein, by the way. Ramosha was very opposed to it. Dr. K said they have a workaround, but your point is the workaround may help for medical school, but
for anatomy.
But it doesn't help for once they start practicing, etc. They're in a hospital constantly, so it's very problematic.
Yeah.
Okay, did you have any other things you wanted to comment upon the program, being that you're a Rav, a halacha expert, and in a medical school? Any other points on the last program you wanted to comment on?
I wouldn't consider myself an expert on anything. I was going to bring up a makor that came up in the context of your conversation with Steinberg Shlita. You were talking about maternity and halacha, which of course is one of the big issues that comes up in medical halacha nowadays. And you were saying you were almost incredulous how many poskim, despite the fact that there are major poskim who say that the maternity should be determined by gestation and birth. And the scenario that you gave him was you took an embryo from an animal and you implanted it into a human, or vice versa. You took an embryo from a human and you implanted it into an animal uterus. So then what are you going to say? You're going to say that the animal that's choresh basada you're going to make them a bar mitzvah, or you're going to take the human being and you're going to shech them? How is that possibly going to work? And Rabbi Steinberg wasn't really kind of acknowledging that. He was getting into epigenetics, so that's like a whole complicated parsha in and of itself. He was kind of asserting that the Metzias would be a little bit different than was being described. I was just going to point out that there is like a Yerushalmi that does describe a slightly different scenario, but it's somewhat similar. Yerushalmi is commenting on a Mishnah Masechus Nida. It discusses a machlokas between Rabbi Meir and the Chachamim about Tumas Yoledas in a circumstance where an Isha is Mapelas Kamin Behema. So there's a machlokas as to whether or not there's Tumas Yoledas there. Rabbi Meir says yes, the Chachamim say no. And the Yerushalmi asks your Kosher of Dovid, Rabbi Chagai Yamar, he says, what are you going to say to, he says, Chavrin the Rabbanan Mashil al Rabbi Meir, the Rabbanan asked Rabbi Meir, like, what are you going to say? There's a bird hanging up in the tree, and you're going to say that the bird should do yibum or chalitza? So that was the kasha that they asked on Rabbi Meir. And the Yerushalmi says, Einachinami, the kasha equally applies to the Rabbanan, because according to the Rabbanan, everything is holech achar hapanim. So if you had, the case of the Yerushalmi is this hybrid creature that's part human, part animal. And the Yerushalmi says that hakol holech achar hapanim, that if the panim are like a human, then it's treated as a human. If the panim are like an animal, it's treated as an animal. And then the Yerushalmi goes on to say, Pana behema omed kore batorah omrim lo ba l'shachtecha. And if panav adam omed b'choresh basada omrim lo ba v'chalot o yayadim. So it's quite literally your case. The Yerushalmi says, if you have an animal that has a human face, even if it's just plowing in the fields, if it's grazing in the fields, then theoretically there would be a chiyuv yibum or chalitza.
Yeah, but respectfully, Rabbi Schrier, the Yerushalmi is referring to a half human, half animal creature.
Correct. Different
which
from
I think
your case.
The mythology is called a centaur, right?
Right, or a minotaur, whatever it may be.
So how do we deal with something that's half human and half thing, and there's a debate?
Right.
But I'm talking about a different case. If they were to be able to implant, let's say, a cow's embryo into a human, and a human would give birth to a calf, would you say that this calf gets could be makadosh somebody, or alternatively, if a human embryo is implanted into an animal, which isn't so strange. Today they use pig valves for people's hearts, and out of a pig, a human was born. Would you say you could shecht it? I mean, do you believe that?
100%. So I would say I guess three things. Number one, I mean, the assumption that Rosh Steinberg was making is that in the scenario you're describing, where you took an embryo and placed it in a uterus, then he wasn't assuming that you just get a full human or a few animal. That's a full animal. That's why he was talking about epigenetics and the like. You might get something more similar to the Yerushalmi's case. Obviously not quite literally like the mythological creature, but something more similar. But even if we granted the premise of what you're saying, number one, the Yerushalmi's kasha and Rabbi Meir is the case that you described, right? It's mapelas kamin orev, right?
But it's a half and half. You see, for the Yerushalmi is discussing
not for Rabbi Meir. Not for Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Meir is mapelas kamin behema. That's Rabbi Meir is a full animal. That's the case being described for Rabbi Meir.
It's kamin behema, whatever that means. Yeah.
That's before the Yerushalmi introduces the whole hybrid situation. So for Rabbi Meir, you have the scenario that you're describing. That's the kasha that's raised on Rabbi Meir. In terms of the broader point within the shita of the Chachamim, I think you're right. They're not identical, but you do have a scenario where the Chachamim are saying you could have.
So I'm asking you, Rabbi Schrier, do you believe that according to the Yerushalmi,
yes,
if the human embryo was put into some type of a cow and a human was born, you would be able to shecht it according to the Chachamim?
According to the Chachamim, is there
any scenario where you could kill a human being and eat it because it was hosted in a behemoth. Do you believe that? That's my question.
It was hosted again, that's not directly, you're 100% right, that's not directly the case that Yerushalmi is discussing. I'm just pointing out.
Is there anybody in our audience who would get up? They say a human is planted in, a baby gets born, it walks, it goes to Yeshiva, and somebody says you could shecht it if you're hungry.
Right. So again, David, the case in the Yerushalmi is the case where you're right. Morphologically, it's not fully human, but it's
right.
Omid b'korei b'Torah. The Yerushalmi says
but it's
raining
also
Torah on Shabbos morning.
It also has a horse's body. Yeah. After the Yerushalmi, is there any case where you say a kid is implanted into an animal body, comes out, it goes to yeshiva, it's in third grade, and somebody says, you know what, let's shecht it because we need meat for the cholent. Would you say that any svara?
I understand. I fully understand.
Okay. That was my point.
That it sounds preposterous. I totally understand. But again, the Yerushalmi is having a case where it's not identical, but it is similar. It's korei b'Torah, like you said, it's learning in yeshiva. It looks odd,
but it has an animal's body. It's a very big
animal face. The Yerushalmi says its body is an animal, but its body is human, but the face is an animal. Yeah.
Well, Rabbi Schrier, thank you. I want to thank you for correcting our mistake. So now boys know they have two options, or girls know they have two options. Where there's a full Shem Shabbos program, both in Rabbi Yitzchak Hanan and in Albert Einstein as well as Turo. That was the upshot.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Rabbi Schrier. Let's go to the chosen winner of this week's riddle.
I'm hoping this is the right thing to choose. My name is Yossi Nadvig. I'm a shliach in Oswego, New York. I have an answer to today's riddle of where is it hinted in the beginning of Parshas Shemot that we say Tehillim in times of trouble. If you look at the first verse, the Eilis Shemot B'nei Yisrael Haboyim, the Sefer Tevet, the last letters of each word there can be arranged to spell the word Tehillim. And of course, the word right after that is Mitzrayma, as was mentioned in the Dvar Torah, that could be used from the word Meitzar, meaning some kind of difficulty or tribulation. So when a Yid is in a situation where he's facing troubles, he should say the words of Tehillim. Thank you very much. Back on the program.